if they had told anyone that one of the states in Nigeria will be under any form of emergency in the last 1 month, no one would have predicted what has happened in Rivers State this past few days. But it's playing right before our own eyes. And it's shocking to some extent for some persons who have followed Nigerian politics for this long. But then we are going to do a little bit of discourse regarding that, and then also dovetail into the economy. We have with us in the studio Professor Emmanuel Agbaeze. He is a fellow Nigerian Institute of Management and Business Development expert. Professor Emmanuel Agbaeze, good to have you. Good morning.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
One of the biggest news out of Nigeria, and out of Africa, in fact, this week is the Rivers State conundrum. How did you receive it, and what's your reaction to what's going on in Rivers?
Let me tell you, anyone who have followed it systematically will have seen it coming.
Really?
Yes. The problem with the system is that if you get into strategic issues, you will discover that people come in contact with what happens, maybe the decision, the formulation, without understanding the hidden aspect of it, which is the aspect that has to do with environmental scanning, data gathering, and issues on the ground. Any careful observer who have followed this systematically will have understood that a lot of water passed through the bridge.
So what's this hidden thing, apparently, that people didn't see that led to this escalation?
There was a missing link somewhere. The question was, what is that missing link?
What's the missing link?
The missing link was that the parties, the stakeholders, major stakeholders, were not able to manage themselves.
But does it warrant a state of emergency? I mean, there are different ways you can do things in order for you to still maintain some sort of order, because right now it's becoming extreme.
That's what people will tell you, that it's extreme. We will also want to look at maybe the Emergency Act of 1961. People will tell that it's obsolete, even the subsequent legislation thereon. But the fact was that the major parties to the problem at the moment, the way we perceive it, is happen to be the Fubara and Wike. And the man who is the father of the house, the president and commander-in-chief, one would watch him to fold his hands in face of crisis. Remember that along the line, IPP told us that Nemesis will not forgive him for not taking his decision in the face of crisis. But however, that Nemesis can forgive him for taking a wrong decision. I'm not even saying that the president took a wrong decision. But let's put it this way. There's something they call situational ethics and situational variables. Let's assume that the president has folded his hands and allowed them to play it out. Two things must have happened. It's either the football must have been impeached, or maybe there will also be crisis, bigger crisis that you can see. But I think that decision was taken out of the abundance of available information that has to do with envisaged problems that were boiling up in the place. I don't think football would have been saved the way it was going. But what I think about the state of emergency is that it's an opportunity for them to go back to the thinking box. It may not necessarily be 6 months, depending on what they're able to do with it. The question, the thing is, what is the intent? The intent is something me and you may not understand from the onset. The circumstances that led to the declaration is also entirely a different thing. And you might also know that if you sit in the position of the chief executive, even in a small company, even in the house, you are more likely to have more information than somebody on the street. You can critique a decision based on your bounded rationality, based on what you think you know. But whether you are able to know everything about it, you may not, except if you are in the position of the decision maker. Take, for instance, people call Machiavelli the evil advocate. They criticize him. But most of those people who say so never had an opportunity of reading Machiavelli, or never had an opportunity of situating themselves within the situation of Machiavelli when you got that book. That decision must be based on information available to the president. And I want to say freely that I don't think if that decision didn't come, the most likely thing would have been that football would have been impeached. And he's better with him to say his suspension, that is to say there's another opportunity for them to go in-house. The adjust, the non-adjust, the major stakeholders should be able to sit down, tell themselves the home truth, and then instead of this frontal attack, think of a win-win approach to the matter. You give her this, you give her this, you give her this, give her this, and come to a compromise so that they can move. That's one way. But for us as academics who are interested in the economy of the nation, we know that the problem is not just political. It borders more on the control of the soul of River State. Soul in parentheses, referring to the economy, the wealth of the state. And me and you know that once you touch River State, you also touching the wealth of the nation. If you imagine what it took us to wriggle out of the crisis we have had in the past, to move on to having the refineries to begin to work, for fuel getting stabilized gradually, it moved up to 151, it moved up to 1,500, 1,600, and came down to about 900 and something now, with potentials of coming down continuously. A lot of things can trigger it off. And then it is difficult to separate the economy from politics. Our worry remains. How will this impact on the economy of the nation? How will it impact on the well-being of the people? As I speak, people are phobic. If you ask me to talk about bus now, people will tell they won't go. The businesses that will begin to crumble. But it is better to do it, but the major take home will be that, which we say freely, in the period of crisis, in the periods of annoyance, people should learn to talk less.
But most people think also that the president did not act neutrally, like he tried to act neutrally, that a major player, like you mentioned, which is Wiki, was not, even spoken to. There's no pat on the wrist. Why are you doing this? Or even suspend him from his cabinet, at least for the meantime, to look at the issues, basically. That he just went and suspended the House of Assembly and then the governor, which it largely be unconstitutional. Like you mentioned, it's more for the academics about the soul of the state, the wealth of the state, than it is for the solving of the problem. Because if you really want to solve the problem, you wouldn't be going for bringing in a sole administrator.
There's this thing they call devil's advocate or devil's alternatives. And the timing. If you look at the timing, without good enough, I'm not from River State, so I can speak from how we look at it. If you follow it critically, the next thing will have happened will have been impeachment.
So you feel that the
I think it just merely created an opportunity
for
a second chance. And that second chance will be let people get back home and think and dialogue.
But there are people who also say that the president is partisan. He knows how important Rivers is in an election that is due in 2 years' time, or less. So he's doing that in order to gain some sort of measure. Say, for instance, now you have a Wike and then you have a Fubara. Maybe another opportunity for Fubara to look at his status and say, look, okay, what if I join the APC? Would that be okay to bring me back? Which is possible. So the negotiations you're talking about, it is to the president's advantage if people look at it from that premise.
Let me ask further. Who is Wike? Who is Fubara? Who is Wike? Who is Fubara? These are the same set of people. These are exactly the same set of people. What is it that Wike can do for the president that Fubara cannot do?
Maybe Fubara hasn't shown it.
These are the same set of people. Whether any president will be interested in Rivers State is certain.
Yeah.
There won't be any president who will not be interested in Rivers State. No one. The difference is how it is handled. I'll tell you, people will tell you that any decision a man takes to commit suicide is not the decision taken on the spur of the moment. I now decide to go and hang myself. I say, oh, he went to hang himself because of this. It's not a decision at the moment. I feel convinced as a strategist that decision was born out of detailed analysis of information in the environment. When two parties are fighting and it becomes so fierce, the first thing to do is to say, you go. You take some time and mediate. There's a need, a very serious need, for Rivers people to put their house together. This issue of comes. After politics comes governance. Why are they doing politics in the time they should be interested in governance? And the way it's going, it will affect the life of the people. It will have to affect the economy. And if you don't take time, it will boomerang. No, without missing, I want to be very specific about it. That decision must be based out of severe pressure on the president and feelings, not allow the situation to get worse. Let me ask you, two of yours. Between being suspended and given 6 months out of the office to put the house together and being impeached, which would have been better?
Suspended?
Suspension better, obviously. Those principal people who are doing television parade and those those strong men of Rivers State, this is the time to come back to start say, we want to take back our state. Give us back our state. It's a period for dialogue. It's a period for reconciliation. Wike is a son of the state. Fubara is a son of the state. As a matter of fact, Fubara also served Wike. Why wouldn't they go back to our kitchen cabinet and stop this dance of shame? You say, why will you come and begin to dance in a marketplace naked? Because of selfish interest? No.
All right, let's talk about the economy. All right, again, there are some decisions that have been taken in the past which has affected the Nigerian economy today.
Yes.
One of them is the removal of fuel subsidy. A lot of persons think is a good idea, but the way it was done was harsh. And that has exacerbated a lot of things because transportation is one of the cost of production across board. So when you put in transportation, factor in transportation, and the fact that it has tripled since 2023, and you could think of anything in Nigeria that hasn't gone up, whether it is services, whether it is food, just name it, everything has gone up. Do you think that the way and manner the subsidy was removed was in the best interest of the common good of Nigerians?
I had always supported removal of subsidy. It is not the removal of subsidy that is a problem. Our problem is the sabotage associated with it.
How?
Let me say, for instance, but I'm going to talk about where you say it. On that broadcast, on that first day when the president met, he told the world, told us when that question, he said that subsidy is not in the budget. That is to say that in the budget that was presented, that there was no subsidy. But the question is, must you say it on that day? You know, you can be diplomatic with issues. Maybe, but whether Tinubu understand, whether the president understand the economy and the working of the economy, he does. Whether the intent is right, it is right. If you get into economic analysis, you will also discover that it was a just decision. But the problem was that the marketers, the middlemen, the businesses and people took advantage of what they ought not to. At the time the fuel moved to 600, the fuels in the filling station were still fuel bought under fuel bought under 100 and something. I think our problem lies more on this primitive zeal for capital acquisition by our businessmen. And that should be moderated by government. Stiff measures. We have no business selling fuel at almost 1,000 naira when we produce the fuel here. Mm-hmm. No business at all.
But that's again one of the key issues, which is naira for crude, which Dangote and NNPC was doing. And all of a sudden, this March, Dangote is saying that the naira for crude deal is over and there's no renewal. The talks between NNPC and Dangote is stalled, and most likely the dollar for crude is going to continue, meaning that we're going to see a spike in prices of pump price of. Are you shocked, surprised, or even miffed by what you have heard regarding this development?
Dangote is a businessman, and he's there for profiteering.
Absolutely.
And governance is all about welfare.
Mm-hmm.
In this, the justice assessment of the two are different. You don't measure two different things with same yardstick.
Okay.
This one, his interest is money making. This other one is when it's the welfare of the people.
Does it show that it's even doing welfare of the people? Because Dangote is reducing the cost price, and then it's only when it reduces that's when NNPC decides to reduce with the outlets that it deals with.
I'm coming there.
Okay.
It has to do with the interplay of demand and supply. When you are unable to meet the market demand, the prices are bound to go up. I think we have a challenge. The challenge that faces the present government that must do something about putting our refineries together. Mm-hmm. That's the major challenge must do. And people who play politics with fuel must get out of it. As a matter of fact, I said clearly. As a matter of fact, I am saying that this interplay between supply and demand is a major factor that needs to be addressed in the Nigerian economy. And if you know what fuel is, if you touch fuel, you touch every other thing in the system.
Absolutely.
So the vital thing that needs to be done and has to be done. I mean, there should be something that critical that has to be discussed, that we must go back to looking at the basic problems of the society. Why do we have these refineries? Why are they not working? Why can't we produce? The problem is with us. And the problem is absolutely with us. And we want to insist that government should go back and concentrate more effort in making those refineries work. And before now, they were not working at all, but at least at the moment, it's beginning to work. Let them not go back on that.
All right, and speaking of the refineries, a lot of people think that there's no need for NNPC to own any refinery at all. They should have just sold it and let it be the competition with Dangote. But before we continue that conversation, we'll see if we can get across to Professor Benjamin Ogele Okaba. I don't know if he's still on the line. Good morning, sir.
Yeah, I'm on the line. How are you?
I'm very fine. Thank you so much. You are the president of Joint National Congress Global.
Very well.
I mean, you have released statements regarding the developments in Rivers State. So many discussions regarding these developments. From your end, with what you have seen so far, do you think that the president did what he could do to save the situation?
Okay, thank you very much. Just like you said, we've been on this matter right from the very beginning, made several interventions, made several statements, issued communiques, and frankly speaking, the intervention, the recent declaration of a state of emergency in Rivers State is, for us, it's very unfair, it's lopsided, it's partisan, and grossly unacceptable. You know, we have said earlier that it is not about Wiki and Fubara. It's about it's a class struggle between the bourgeois minority, but very powerful, and the masses of this nation who are doing a democracy should have been the most powerful. But unfortunately, even from the declaration and the approval given by the National Assembly, it clearly also indicates that in spite of all the outcry and condemnation across the entire country, they still went ahead to have their way, even when the majority of Nigerians had their say. So it is about a struggle to capture state power. It's about 2027 putting things all in place to ensure that we gravitate towards a one-party system. It's all about having it all to themselves, believing that in this country anything can go. You know, some persons have said, what money cannot buy, more money can buy, and all that. So that is where we are. So we are still pained by the fact that the president decided to prefer one individual who has boasted that if he does anything, heaven will not fall. And heaven actually not falling, because he has the tacit, we thought at first we call it tacit, but now it's become very obvious. He has the support of who has power in this country, the judiciary, yes, the ESCO already, and now the National Assembly. You could even see the desperation which the young man was going around boasting and saying that what can he do? And yes, Nigerians are just watching. So that is where we are. We are not happy.
But I just want to put two things together so that you can just react to two of them at the same time. Some persons believe that the president did act the way he did because if he had left the situation the way he did, I mean, Fubara would have been gone. He acted, at least we still have a situation where Fubara is still the governor of the state. The governor has not been sacked. I mean, yes, he has been suspended, but there might be things that can happen that can reinstate him. But if he had left it continuously, I mean, we already see the House of Assembly putting a measure to have him, impeached, which he stopped, which was stopped by the emergency rule. So some people believe that the president acted even in support of Fubara rather than Wike of some sort. And then secondly, we've had people who call themselves faceless people, militants, who have threatened that they're going to bomb, pipelines if Fubara is in any way impeached. As soon as that process kicked in, then we started seeing the bombing of this pipeline. We've also seen, Asari Dokubo, who came publicly to also threaten it in that direction. What did you do as someone who is a leader of this organization? To what extent do you think that these things played out to, anger the president to take decisions that he took?
Yeah, thank you very much. If you look at it from one angle, I think I would say you have a point. But again, if you provide an holistic analysis of all that played, first and foremost, talking about the intended parley between the president and the two factions. I'm talking about Wike and Fubara, where agreements were reached. The president, even at that point, played some unfair rule. It was easy for him to have said at that particular point that, look, for Wike, this and this are not acceptable. You have supported somebody to becoming governor, and today, by the grace of God, it's not everybody former governor that becomes minister. You are now a minister of the Federal Capital Territory. A very robust appointment. Allow the interest of the state and the people to override your personal interest. If I have just cautioned it, okay, certain agreements were reached, though not people never saw these agreements as in any sense of equity. But Fubara went as far as fulfilling all of these, including the withdrawal of cases. But these other wicked guys went ahead to prosecute their own cases. So, for those who say that President preempted Fubara's removal, in the impeachment there has a process. Yes, they have the majority, but it's the chief judge who has a role to play. We saw the desperation there and there to remove the chief judge and all that. So, to that extent, I will not say it was done. It was done to save Fubara. In fact, the president even said in the broadcast containing the message of proclamation of what do you call it, emergency and all that. He did say that he did that because of the security situation. And if you go back to that, right? If you go back to that, militants threatened, people came out. In fact, for me, as president of Ijaw National Congress, I had warned right from the beginning that if this matter is not properly handled, and if Fubara is maliciously removed, there will be repercussions. I said so as president who superintends over not just the Ijaw Nation. I'm chairman of the President Generals of Niger Delta Ethnic Nationalities.
Okay, just because of time, we just have to let that call go, but we will continue this conversation. Professor, your final take on the economy, what do you expect to see in another few weeks, in another few months, especially as it relates to the oil sector, oil and gas sector? It seems that the NNPC is frustrating Dangote with what they are doing.
The price of oil may go up. If the crisis in Rivers State is not nipped on the bud. And for the, what to call the state of emergency, I also say that it's an opportunity for them to go back to the drawing board. Our appeal, my appeal, is that they say father in the house.
Right.
Let the father play the role of a father. Let him bring all the parties together and save Rivers State and save the country. These things are in his hands. He knows what to do.
All right.
He knows exactly what to do to save the situation. Let him go back to the board. Call his children to order. Bring them back home. Tell them, you did this wrong, you did this wrongly, and advocate for a win-win approach. But I don't see any state where there are two governors.
Absolutely.
I don't see any state where there are two governors. Where somebody will conversing that I'm the governor of Rivers State, I'm in charge of Rivers State, when they say sitting governor. It is not right.
Absolutely.
But what it is to do, we believe the president has the competence. He has the knowledge. He knows it better than any other person. He has the joker. He has not played it.
Right.
Let him bring the parties to take together and call them to order and restate from order.
All right, Professor. Professor Emmanuel, we have to leave it there because of time.
Yeah, my dear, thank you.
Emmanuel Agbaeze is a fellow of the Nigerian Institute of Management and Business Development expert. Many thanks.
It's my pleasure.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Save Nature TV. News in your pocket.